You go to work, you hit your deadlines, you show up for people. From the outside, your life looks completely together. But inside, there's a constant low hum of worry you can't quite turn off. You replay conversations hours after they've ended. You overprepare for things that never go wrong. You lie awake running through tomorrow before it's even started. And the strangest part, because you're functioning, because nobody can tell, you've never once thought to call it anxiety. But that's exactly what it is. Today we're talking about high-functioning anxiety. What it actually is, the signs most people completely miss, and why the fact that you seem fine on the outside can actually make it harder to heal. Let's get into it. 1. What is high-functioning anxiety? High-functioning anxiety isn't an official clinical diagnosis. You won't find it in the DSM, but therapists and psychologists use the term to describe something very real, a pattern where someone experiences significant anxiety symptoms, but manages to maintain, and often excel, in their daily life. Here's what makes it different from the anxiety most people picture. When most people imagine anxiety, they imagine someone who can't get out of bed, can't hold a job, visibly falling apart. High-functioning anxiety looks like the opposite. It looks like the person who is always early, always prepared, always the one everyone leans on. It looks like achievement, reliability, and calm on the surface. Underneath that surface, the engine is running at full speed all the time. The anxiety isn't absent. It's just been turned into fuel. And for a long time, that feels like a superpower, until it doesn't. 2. The silent signs. Here are the signs most people miss, and I want you to notice how many of these you've dismissed as just part of your personality. Sign 1. You're a master of worst-case scenario thinking. You don't just plan for things. You pre-plan for every possible way they could fail. The presentation is ready, but you've also mentally rehearsed what happens if the projector breaks, if someone asks a question you can't answer, if the whole thing goes badly. You call it being prepared. Your anxiety calls it necessary. Sign 2. You can't do nothing without guilt. Rest feels like a trap. Sitting still without a task makes you restless, almost agitated. You need to be doing something to feel okay. And when you do try to relax, there's always a voice in the background saying, you should be doing more. The inability to simply rest, without guilt, is one of the clearest signs of anxiety flying under the radar. Sign 3. You replay conversations long after they've ended. Someone said something that seemed slightly off. An email came back with fewer words than usual. You said something in a meeting that got no reaction. You probably don't even remember what they said, but hours later, you're still running the interaction through your mind, trying to figure out what it meant. Sign 4. You have a need for control that goes deeper than preference. It's not that you like things a certain way. It's that when things deviate from the plan, when someone cancels, when a routine breaks, when the unexpected happens, there's a disproportionate spike of tension. You've learned to manage this so smoothly that other people rarely notice it, but you feel it every time. Sign 5. You find it almost impossible to delegate. Asking others for help means trusting them to do it right, and your anxiety says they won't. So you end up carrying more than your share, not because you're a control freak, but because letting go feels genuinely unsafe. Sign 6. Physical symptoms you've explained away. Tight shoulders that never fully relax, a jaw you clench at night, headaches that arrive before big events, a stomach that turns over in social situations. Your body has been keeping score while your mind stayed busy convincing you everything was fine. Sign 7. You're highly driven, but the drive comes from fear. Here's the one that cuts the deepest. A lot of high-functioning, anxious people are genuinely successful, but if you look closely at what's pushing that success, it's often not passion or purpose. It's a deep fear of failure, of falling behind, of being exposed as not enough. The achievement is real, but the engine behind it is exhaustion. 3. Why being fine makes it harder to heal. Here's the cruel irony of high-functioning anxiety. Because you cope so well, because you show up, produce, and appear composed, there's very little external pressure to address it. Nobody pulls you aside. Nobody suggests you need help, because from where they're standing, you're doing great. And so you learn to use your own functioning as proof that you're okay. I'm fine. Look, I'm still going, I'm still managing. But functioning is not the same as thriving. Getting through each day is not the same as actually feeling well. Psychologist Dr. Sherry Benton describes it this way. High-functioning anxiety is like driving with the handbrake slightly on. You're still moving. You're still getting where you need to go, but everything costs more effort than it should. And eventually, something wears out. The gap between how you appear and how you actually feel is not a sign that you're fine. It's the sign. It's what makes this particular pattern so worth paying attention to. For what actually helps. The good news is that high-functioning anxiety responds very well to the right kind of attention. Here's where to start. Name it, simply recognizing, this is anxiety, not just who I am, creates distance. You are not a worrier by nature. You are a person experiencing anxiety. That shift matters more than it sounds. Separate worth from output. A big part of HFA is the belief, often unconscious, that you are only as valuable as what you produce. Deliberately taking rest without earning it first is one of the most effective things you can do to interrupt this pattern. Work with your nervous system, not against it. Anxiety is a physiological state, not just a mental one. Slow exhale breathing, breathing out longer than you breathe in, activates the parasympathetic nervous system and interrupts the anxiety loop faster than thinking your way out of it ever will. Talk to someone. High-functioning anxiety is one of the things that responds really well to therapy, specifically CBT and ACT approaches, precisely because it lives so much in thought patterns and beliefs about the self. If therapy feels like a big step, even journaling the gap between how you appear and how you feel is a powerful start. And finally, give yourself credit for how hard you've been working. Carrying this quietly, for this long, takes a lot. You're not weak for having it. You're actually one of the most resilient people in the room. High-functioning anxiety doesn't look like falling apart. It looks like always holding it together and being exhausted by the effort. If anything in this video felt uncomfortably familiar, I hope the main thing you take away is this. Noticing it is the first step. You don't have to fix everything at once. You just have to stop using the fact that you're managing as evidence that you're fine. Because you deserve more than just managing. If this helped, subscribe. I make psychology videos every week designed to help you understand what's actually going on inside your head. And drop a comment. Which sign hit closest to home for you? I read every single one. See you next time.